Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus Three Futures and Commodities Show. We are recording here on Friday, December 5th, about 15 minutes before the close. My name is Ben Maldonado. As always, I'm here with my partner, Barry Hederachi. Barry, how we doing?
Doing great, doing great. Had a
Uh,
nice break, so ready
Excellent.
to
Yeah,
go.
good Thanksgiving. Ready to hit it
Hmm.
again. I think the topic that we should cover and the theme of this show should be, as we're on that downhill slide into Christmas and year end, is the market going to be naughty or nice for Christmas? I mean, we basically have 3 weeks till Christmas. What are the key levels that we need to watch to know where the odds flip one way or the other? Because that's what it's all about, is creating that edge.
Absolutely.
And this week was sort of boring beyond means. But you're some work that we posted during the week. I hope you saw, but Barry's 4 hour chart. I mean, that to me that was a fantastic thing and kind of saved me from even messing with things this week because we were
Hmm.
just banging our head up against that ceiling and then coming down into support and then banging our head against the ceiling and sort of repeat and rinse all week. So
Yep, yep.
let's dive in and see sort of what are you seeing? What are the squares showing us where the
Hmm.
important spots are?
Yeah, let's take a look at that. And we also have a lot of commodities that are back in action. We're going to look at coffee and review NatGas and what else you got? You got some
Corn and
gray
beans. Yeah,
and
corn and
beans.
beans
Yeah.
we'll look at as well. So yeah, they're
All right.
starting to perk up.
Yeah, yeah. Good time to check on those.
Hmm.
And all right. And we'll look at that 4 hour chart and the 30-minute a little bit later. And if you guys like our work, even small part of it, feel free to hit the like button and subscribe and alerts and all of that. Let's start with the cash chart like we always do. A couple of weeks ago, it's been a couple of weeks since we were able to do a show. We were down in this 66.38, 66.01 level. And the basic idea there was, if we reverse and get on top of the 66.38, we're looking for some kind of a move up, some kind of a counter trend, right? And I said, long as we can if we can stay below that, below the first counter trend that we had on the 12th, we can probably look at the market to roll over. And it's funny enough, this week what happened, after powering through last week, this week we just sat under it the entire week except for today, right? We just peaked above and
Booked
and
above
and
it today.
just enough to sort of technically give us a false break against that high
Yep.
and the reverse. So it's been naughty this week, that's for sure. All right, so going forward, I mean, we were off last week, so let's just pick it up. I don't have to go through the 67, 27, all of these levels. So we have a new level we're watching, that 68.20 on the cash. I'll punch it in real time. And the idea there is, long as we're above that, I think we're in pretty good shape. And 68.20 is low enough, so we're not at the bottom of the range, but we're sort of, a little bit above the bottom. And if we're going to get some kind of a counter trend on lower time frames, if we can hold above that 68.20, I think we have enough juice to hang in there till the 10th FOMC. And well, we might have to do a special show on the 10th just to catch up because we want to see what the pattern is like going into the 10th. And so we have the 8th and 9th. We'll see how that goes. Maybe if we have time, we'll do a show. But for now, I think just knowing 68.20, I think that's a big deal. And it's an important level to watch. And the old high, we're very close to the old high. More than the old high is 270 degrees, which comes up right at 7,000, 7,000. And go ahead.
I was going to say it looks like we got to go up and tap that at least,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yep. It does. It does. Now, the question there is, are we going to tap it first, immediately after FOMC, or are we going to, sort of sell the news and tap it later towards the end of the year? Sort of a Christmas rally, right? I think that's really the question. I think tapping here is not, it's really a matter of when, don't you think? And I think
And that
like it.
you and I were talking about that. When do we get the rally? When do we get the sell off? And it's
Mhm.
still up in the air in terms of the order they're going to do that.
Exactly. So I think the 10th will probably help for that to some degree. We'll see a price action on the next 2, 3 days and see. But I think long as we can, like Monday, Tuesday, we can hold above 68.20, I think we can expect the upside pressure to be in place. Now, this would be a classic place to do a false break, so watch out for that. I mean, a false break here, and then a reversal on that, taking the low out of the high bar, the false break bar, I think would give us a whole nother picture, and I think it'd probably be more powerful than getting up to 270, filling out the square. Let's see a couple of different ways we're going to play out. So follow us on X if you're not, because we post updates every day. Anyway, getting back to 7,000. So that's, like you said, it looks like we just basically have to go there. And you can see how we held really well. We had a false break down here against the lows in October. So it looked like it really wanted to go up and test that high. Okay, so that's the case. Let's see how it goes. And my point here is, as long as we're above 68.20, upside is wide open and 7,000 is within sight. But I think if we're going to do 7,000, might as well go a little bit more, so 70.90, even 71.80 is in play. So a couple of targets up there, but let's work with 7,000 first. All right, so that's the cash. Let's take a quick look at December is going to be out by the time we have our next, second Thursday. So this will be out, but let's just talk about it till the expiration, till the rollover. Well, you can see how the high came in pretty well squared on 144. So I think, if we can't take that out, everything's really lined up for either a false break or a lower high, and then to roll over, right? That would be the 1, 2, and a 3. And the reason I say that is because of the square that we had. Now that this little ABC correction down was enough to balance price, then okay, so be it. But we'll have to kind of figure that out on the way, on the fly. And the way to do that is to look at the levels. And so for the next few days, these levels are going to be totally valid. So here, 68.06 is going to be important, quarter of the square. And obviously, we're sitting at 1/3 of a square, that the green dotted line right there. And that square level is 68.53. So 68.53, or let's just say today's low. If we take that out, we have a reversal. And if we get something like that, then 68.06 area looks like the support. And point being, if we can hold above these levels and reverse to the upside again, let's say Tuesday or Wednesday, then it opens up possibility of either taking this out or having a false break there. But that's all I can talk about in December. I'll bring in, that I should have pulled up the March contract, which I'm already following, but I wanted to, here's the calendar day chart. We look at this every week. And here, what's clear is the quarter level definitely has an effect. 67, 60, 67, 64 area is good support. Anyway, we're well above that. You can see how even the pullback day held it well above that. Now the question is really, 68.84. So if we can settle above that, obviously, 57,000 within reach. And within reach, meaning it's right there, is a half square, is right at 7,000. I think that makes sense. If we're going to do all of that, I would rather see it go to 72.50 or so and square out, because I do have levels up there. Some of the other charts and from some of the other lows. So my point is, if we can hold this and take out that cycle, let's say the 144 is done. If it's done, then we can go higher, meaning we don't have we don't really get a trade off of a lower high, and the cycle is just going to extend further into a bigger high. And I think the lows held really well. This where 50% of the square, there's 65.20, 65.17. You can see the old highs were there. We came back to test it exactly before we reversed. So I feel like everything's kind of set for the ultimate test, which is the old high. And there's only two ways to go about that, you know. Either we settle above or we're gonna do a false break, other than a lower high. All right. So that's so what does all that mean? I think we have to be really aware of the low levels I talked about just a little while ago. Uh, Making sure that we can hold above them on any kind of a counter trend. And this will be a little bit further hammered in on when we look at the 4 hour. That'll really help the next couple of days. And also the 30-minute levels will help you really put a frame on that, being that the daily levels are a little bit further out, right? I mean, so let's move on to, let's take a look at the NASDAQ. So NASDAQ, again, all of these, you know, all the indices went up and tagged the high, the first counter trend high that was there on the 12th. And the movement looks pretty good. We had support at 23,700. It was a zone here. We held above it, which to me, that normally we have a level and it holds a little bit above that. It just shows strength. And away we went. Now, if we can hold above this level, this 25,140 level, I think actually, you know, anytime we're above this square, you know, we have this entire square open. So we can have upside. At this point, we want to see what the next pullback is. We really, I mean, this run up after the low, we really didn't even get a breather, right? We had this 1 day here, 1 day counter trend, but the rest of it has been push, 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 even through the sideways we had. A 1 or 2 day pullback would not be unusual. And I could see us going a little bit higher and selling on the news and then, you know, do the whole shakeout and then get back on track to move higher. It's a little tricky here because of the squares we had at the original high. Because of that, we're going to start flying close to that. We really have to keep an eye open, and that's why I kept talking about the couple of the sort of the three options we have, and they can't all happen at once. So we'll know early on, you know, it's one or the other. Anything you want to add to that, Ben?
Cover the NASDAQ, so we'll look at the weekly and the monthly in addition to the daily. So we'll get a decent look.
Okay. And well, here's the Dow. And we're above 47,162. And you can see what happened on the 12th. We didn't quite go and take it out. Of course, 12th was a higher high on the Dow. Again, long as we're above the square here, 47,162, you know, the market's in good shape. Really can't do much. We can't really think of anything negative other than the fact that we have a lower high forming here. So in the next couple of days, if we can take this out and sort of settle above the highs, you know, the quarter square, which is 48,366, then I think, well, I think obviously the next square is already opened up. The question is quarter square going to stall that out, or going to stall it out, or if this high is going to be respected, right? This was a false break, clearly, right? Because after that, this was the high came in, all the highs came in, false break, fell off, and we were able to pull all the way back up in, you know, back up to near the high. So let's watch that. Watch the 47,162 as a daily, really important daily level to the upside. We talked about that. Yeah, that's it. Let's take a look at the weekly and the short-term charts. Right. So this is the 4 hour chart that Ben mentioned at the open. And it's really the Gartley with some equilibrium lines, and you know, not to be undersold. When they work, they really work well, and they can work for a while. And here I saw the midpoint was really holding well early on, and we were tracking it. And of course, through the channel, it was making higher lows, and eventually today we made a higher high. So we could grind through here, and long as we can settle above this line, and you guys can just draw the line out, copy this chart. Long, you know, if we can settle above that, you know, that could set up a really quick impulse. And if you notice where that impulse, if you look at it from line to line, it's about 7,000, right? This is the level we were seeing in all the other charts. So it's easy to see how that area looks pretty good as a target.
Yeah, I mean, and Barry, look, but just look how well that contained price action all week. I mean, the entire
Mm,
week. Look at that.
yeah, the entire week encapsulated here.
Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Well, when geometry works, it's all there. It's just a matter of how we choose to trade it. I mean, in this case, both sides paid off. You can buy the lower end, you can sell the upper end. Because buying the lower end would have worked out better because we did start talking about having a target around, what was it, 68, 80, right? Up there. Anyway, we'll look at it when we get to the 30-minute. So that was the chart. So basically, if we can drop a trend line here, and if we can hold that, obviously this is going to squeeze higher, and so that will be that. All right, let's get into the 30-minute. Well, this is really where all the action was last week. So December 1st, December 2nd, basically key levels were 68.25 and 68.60. We had 67.88 last week, and you can see we broke through, retested, ran up, then we managed to hold above 68.25, which is the dash line here. And after a couple of retests, we got back up on the second. And from there on, the basic idea was, and I posted this on X, if we can manage to hold above 68.25, we're in pretty good shape. We can go up and challenge 68.60. And if we can take that out, then the next stop is going to be 69.14, testing this area after 68.81. So we did all that slowly. You can see how we made higher lows, slowly got on top of 68.60, then over last night. Well, early this morning, right? Last night we were up at 68.81. This morning we came to flush out 68.60 and then ran right up towards 69.14, not quite there. And we reversed at the 50% level. And we're just sitting there. So for next week, what's the story? I think, again, here I can talk to you guys about the March contract also. So basically, if you can be above 68.60, we're obviously in really good shape. 68.81, we're definitely tapping 69.14. But I would look at it like that. And 68.81 can be a sort of a balance point. Kind of how we used 68.25 earlier. So now we're in this next square. We can use it that way. 68.81 would be sort of the balance point, and 69.14 being the target. 68.60 support. So that's three numbers are more than enough. Here's the March contract. So getting past this, you won't need this till later on into the week. But anyway, if you're going to follow it, 69.44 is a key level we need to hold above. Okay. If we're stuck below this, it's a sign of weakness. We get stuck below 69.33, just 10 points. It's not a good sign. It's not the most bullish sign. So I think the bullish part is above 69.44 on the March contract. There's that. Let's take a look at the weekly chart. Weekly continuous contract. Last couple of weeks, few weeks, we've been talking about the 65.20 being key level of support. And I've explained why and all of that in the prior levels, prior shows. So 65.20 support, we held it. We bounced right to the 50% level. This is basic square principles, right? We went from square to the 50% square. Now it's really clear to see that if we clear this, we open up all the way to the next top, which is 72.50. And this is what I meant by I would rather have it instead of just stopping around 70, 71, 70, 90. It'll be nice to have it. It would be natural and correct to be up in the 72, 72.50 area, because that would also give us a square resistance. So that's the weekly. And this is the cash weekly. I'm running for a 52 weekly square. And here it's a little bit interesting. We had 65.07 being support. I mean, you can see the red line, and down a little bit. And the 50% of the square where the high stalled out was 69.25. This is how we called out the high, because I think at the time we looked at it, or maybe the week prior, but this is the area we're looking for resistance. The correction was exactly half a square, which by the book, it's actually okay. Normal correction. Now the big question is, are we going to do one of these where we go up and test the high, push the high a little bit, and then roll over for bigger correction, or are we going to settle above 69.25 and go up and test higher? And test higher here, the next weekly score would be like 73.45. So as you guys can see, there's a lot of work to be done, and plenty of chances for the market to be naughty or nice. I think 69.25, we want to watch very carefully. If we can get above that, I think we could run. If we stall here somehow, either it's a consolidation or we're gonna soften up a little bit, maybe back up and fill to the quarter level, 67.15 or so. That's what I have for the weekly cash. What do you think, Ben?
I think that's 69.25 is key.
Yeah. I
And
think it's gonna.
how we act up there is going to tell us a lot about what the direction we need to go in is.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's the easier way to frame it, right? So let's see how that works out. Jump right into bonds. Bonds. Well, we talked about how we were sitting on top of the 45 and how we got there after testing resistance up at 119.16 last few weeks, right? That's been the story. And the big question here was, can we go up and test it again and move higher, or are we gonna, if we break this, we were talking about how the market's gonna go weak and we're gonna drop lower. So it looks like if you keep an eye on this trend line, we broke the trend line and 2 days down. So it looks a little weak, and story's the same. We still have the same square, so same level. So 119, 116 and a half is the key level. So now we have a bunch of overhead to deal with. So bonds look weak, and we have lower lows and lower highs. And that's that. There's no way to wrap that any other way. And the weekly looks actually very good. You can see we went up and tapped the 144-degree line. And up here, we talked about how the market could reverse. There's a major resistance, and we weren't really sure if it's going to go down all at once or after a couple of sloppy price action. So here, we were above the trend line for a while, and now we're starting to break through. We had a 1 week counter trend last week, and we took out the low of that high bar, and that's all she wrote. So it looks like the high's in place, and I think that run is done. And now looks like the pressures to the downside coming right off of our resistance level. So 114 area is the next level of support, which is really not that far. Anything you want to add to bonds, Ben?
Now, I think that's a good call that we're looking for some weakness here. Does it do an ABCD? Does it come down into support? Do we hold, important levels? Now we got to watch and see what this downtrend looks like. Is it a correction or a new leg lower? That's the question.
Right.
Because the thing I was noticing about bonds is really we've just been going sideways for a while.
Yeah. I mean, for a long while.
Yeah.
But
So
and with the square, even with that choppy action, we were able to kind of sort of type for upside from the downside, right? So now we flipped to the downside again.
That's right.
All right, let's move on to crude. We're still waiting for a good flip.
Speaking of sideways,
we're patient. So 61.61 key level, you can see how it's played out, and we've had this on the board God knows how long, the 61.61 level. You notice we don't have a lot of numbers, but we really work off the numbers that we do have. So I was, the big question we were left with at the time of this first run up to test it was if the pullback's going to be a lower low, or if it's going to hold above the prior low. And you can see we held right above the highs of those low bars. So it looks good. And now again, the whole business now is to get above 61.61. If you can get established above that, I think crude's going to be in pretty good shape. But God knows we put enough time going sideways, so I think everybody's ready for something different. Same thing with the weekly, a lot of sideways. lot of, I would call this kind of bottoming price action. This is really not sideways to weak looking, although we have lower lows and lower highs. But because of this low we had earlier, and these two lows have been higher lows, gives us a little bit of hope to be bullish. So let's see how that works out. Next, let's take a look at gold. Gold is working out pretty well. Look, gold's holding above the 50% of the square, which is 41.51, 41.50. We're above that, and we're consolidating smack in the middle of that. And well, that's positive, right? I think we did an ABCD up. So it's still consolidation mode. I don't think it's finished yet, but as it finishes up, we can expect the trend to continue. But let's wait for that. We did have a good square at the high, so you know this is coming into a lower high. Let's see how the consolidation finishes up. 41.50 is the key level there. All right, let's take a look at the weekly gold. Weekly is actually a better chart. 41.31 is the level we have to hold above. We're well above that. And the next breakaway point is really 43.34. If we can settle above that, of course, it opens up the next square on the weekly square chart. That opens it up 45.50. Not bad, 45.50, but we have to get through 43.34. So, if we can settle above that, right? In the meantime, if this entire consolidation can hold about 41.31, gold's in good shape. Meaning, it can run, right? That's what I mean by good shape. Okay. Moving on to silver. What can I say? We've been talking about how bullish this is. It's holding each level perfectly. When it held this little consolidation, when we pulled back on top of that, it looked very strong. And what happened right after that was exactly what you'd expect. Blew right through. 53.60 is the big time support, square level support, and 58 is the 50% of the square. I'll put that here. And I mean, if we can hold above that, silver is really on fire. But I would say about 55.75, silver is still in very good shape. I mean, heck, it's in very good shape above 53. So all of these silver's doing great. It doesn't look like it's finished. It's not going into some kind of a blowout yet. But we're starting to take the shape. So it's getting close, but doesn't look like it's quite there. When it is, we'll have the squares and everything show up, and that'll give us the time. And here's the weekly. You can see weekly, if we're going to do this, let's do this right. 62.50, 180 degrees up from the lows of 22. Looks okay to me. And low of this week's going to be really important support. That's right on the 50% level. So 56, let's say 56.75 is support. And we can do any kind of consolidation above that and be in great shape to go up and tap the full square. Can you believe this? $60 silver.
It's unbelievable, but it's been there in the charts.
Yep. We've been bullish ever since and
We
before.
Yeah, there might be a little pause because I did pick up a daily square 180 by 90 from the
Hmm.
July 31st low.
Hmm.
So it might give us a little bit of a pause.
Well, as long as
But
we pause and hold those levels,
yeah, I
we're in
mean
good shape.
that's
And
the history, right? Every square out, it pulls back a little bit, holds the level, and then goes
mhm,
again, just like gold did on the way up.
very strong.
Hmm.
And guess who caught up this week? Moving on to copper.
Yep.
So we've been, I think the week before Thanksgiving, I talked about this, 495. We can hold this. We're in good shape. We can go up and test this, and we can jump on top of that. Then we're going to go to 541. If you guys follow us every week, there we are. We got to 541. We held the first level, the quarter level nicely. Now, if 541 could be held, we're in really good shape. We could actually go up and test the highs. And we had a nice move, nice clean, fast move up for copper, right? Fast move going into the 50% square. So everything's looking pretty good. Copper weekly breaking out. 535 was the old resistance. You can see how we got that last sell off right off of that square. And the high came in on 50% of the square. So we triangulated here, and I mentioned a couple of times, that looks bullish as long as we're holding up, doing all this triangulating above 480, 50% of the square. We broke it to the upside. And now if we can clear 535 and hold above, 593 is in sight. Looking pretty good. Pretty good. Take a quick look at Bitcoin. So last week I called the low here, exactly on the low, and we did get a bounce, pretty decent bounce. And now that bounce was also an ABCD up, and I posted a short-term chart calling out that high, and the upside impulse it's completed with that ABCD completing. Now we have to kind of take a look at what the counter trend looks like. If we can hold about 50% of this range, I think it's in really good shape. But it's possible we get down into the 83 area, scare the bejesus out of everybody, and then turn back up. The fact that we stalled at the ABCD means technically it's a good correction. But now it's really about what happens at this low. I think the low is still good. Doesn't mean we can't, come down and shake out the weak hands. So be careful. I think the fun part was done, the low to the ABCD completion. And now we have to wait to see how the next leg sets up. Moving on to the dollar, we went up right up into our resistance, 100.5. And of course, we corrected below 99.5. So I guess the dollar is also a sloppy uptrend, starting in September. Looks okay. We're still bullish the dollar. So I figure, let it shake out, let it get all the kinks out of the system before we move higher. But we need to hold above 99.50 to start ramping anything, right? Any kind of momentum. So we'll wait for that. And looking at the weekly dollar chart, it looks really good. I think, we can even correct all the way down to 98.25. And if we can do that and then pull back, we'll be okay. So we'll be patient. Looks like we're correcting, and we saw that at how the daily bounced off the resistance level, right here. So now we have to wait till we finish this little pullback. All right, moving on to the euro. 1650. We're back at 1650. We got poked a little bit above it, but we're right there. And obviously, if we're holding above 1650, then we have to pause and see how much further the move could go. But clearly, if we take out today's low next week, then we're flipping back to the downside. So that's the euro. And we come to the weekly. Weekly, you can see, we're triangulating here right at the 1654, 1650 level, and we're closing pretty much on the dotted line, dash line. So not much to say other than it's looking pretty weak, and this looks like just another probably the first counter trend on the move down. I think there's more to come to the downside, that is. So let's watch that 1654, see how we do. So Hang Seng, through all of this, Hang Seng held pretty well. We held the 25,000 level, and 26,230 is the 50% level. And if we can get above that next week, and I think we can go higher, test out 27,500. That's to the upside. And if we don't, looks like, we're going to consolidate more above 25,000. So 25,000, we can get through 26,230. We can get up to 27.5. So that looks like a pretty good deal. And I'm pretty sure you're going to cover NatGas this week. So NatGas,
I am.
very good, very good. I mean, look, you guys, we've been, if you've been watching this every week, we call the lows down here when we hit the 50% of the square. And we had this really slow burn, moving higher. We tested this, came back to the quarter square. And then finally, when Ben, actually, you called it out right before it happened, and the move up, and we got the gaps and moved up. We're above the square level now and climbing higher. And you're going to cover it anyway, so that's enough for now. I think we held it through the quiet period, right, or the slow period. And
Now,
looks
yep,
like now
yep.
it looks fully active. All right, that's it for me. Let me put it to you and cover all the commodities, NASDAQ, and all the good stuff.
That was good, quick coverage.
Thanks.
There's a lot to
And
cover.
there's a lot to cover. All right, here we go. But 25,720, right? We talked about that last couple of times, and here we are.
Here we are.
Not quite above it, not quite under it. Matter of fact, we're straddling it.
Yeah, I mean, look at where we closed too.
Yeah, we're right there.
Pretty much right there. So
Mhm.
all week, I post this NASDAQ chart, the daily and the 60-minute every day. And when I was talking about the daily all week, I said, listen, the 25,720 is the key level. We got to, clear it to keep the rally going. If we don't, or if we get stuck under it, then you can look for sort of the bears to take the ball and run with it. So it's nothing's changed. Before today, we were just banging our head against the ceiling. Now we kind of pushed above, so we have a bar straddling. So next week, this is the key number, right? For on a daily basis, you want to watch this 25,720. If we can clear it, so let's say we get an opening above and we spend the whole day Monday above it, that's a clear, and it looks like we'll go up and we'll, challenge those all-time highs from earlier in October.
Yep, yep,
Uh, Otherwise, if we get stuck under here, then we got to see, do we get a fast move down and we take out these lows and this really strong support area that we've tested once. So that's the key number. Not a lot else to say. Just focus on that number, 25,720. Let's
yep,
take a
yep.
let's take a look at the weekly. Here's your weekly. Nothing dramatic, right? So far we've had 2 bars up after having 3 bars down. So next week's a pretty important week. If we get another up bar, then it looks like we're going to challenge those all-time highs. If we take out the lows, then it looks like we're going to come down and test the support at 24,000.
Mhm.
So high and low of this week, you hear that a lot when on this podcast. That's really important to watch for next week. And let's take a quick look at the monthly, see what the monthly's telling us. So far, we had the down bar last month that came right down to support at 24,000. Right now we're inside, so not a lot of information yet off of this first week in December because we're just inside November's price action. But again, if we roll over on the shorter time frames, we know monthly basis 24,000 is really key. So we want to see, do we hold this full square? Do we get a higher low? Do we get a lower low? If we do come down and challenge that. And that's the nuts and bolts of the NQs. The main thing, 25,720. So
Yep,
that's our
yep.
that's our that's our key number for next week. We watch
Easy enough, right?
25,720. Yeah. Anything else you want to add here?
No, we're good. Perfect. Like good
Okay.
numbers.
Yep. Let's go take a look at our old friend Bitcoin, and we'll see the squares in action on multiple time frames.
Mm-hmm.
Before Thanksgiving, we were talking about, we started getting stuck under levels, and when you get stuck under levels, you just sort of take the stairs down, right? You go down to the next level and see if you can find support. So far, we're finding support on this full square at 85,151. We even got a little higher low here. You talked about the ABCD up. Now we're coming
Right.
back down. The key is, do we get another higher low? If we don't, do we get stuck under 85?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we get stuck under 85, that opens up 73, and then we're going to get down into this structure here
Mm-hmm.
and start testing this area over here. So we want to watch this this 85 level is really important, and we want to watch that. On the upside, if we can get something going to the upside, 96.6 is going to be the key level that we got to sit on top of to keep it going. For now, it looks, maybe this weekend, maybe early next week, it looks like we're going to test 85.1 on a daily basis. Let's go check the weekly.
Mm-hmm.
The weekly, the key number we talked about was this 89,252 on the last show, which was the week before Thanksgiving. And we've spent 3 weeks straddling it. So this is a battle spot. It's 144 up from those 2022 lows. So it's a really important spot. And that's why we're battling and we're crisscrossing it. We got to wait on a weekly basis. We got to wait and see which way are we going to clear this. Are we going to get a week where we're stuck under that? Then we're heading down to 70,000. Are we going to get a week where we can sit on top? Then we're heading back to 107. So for now, there's a pretty heated battle going on for the last 3 weeks here at this 89,000. So weekly basis, let's see if we can get one side or the other, and that'll tell us, which way odds favor we're heading. Right now,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's it's uncertain, right? It's uncertain bait if you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at the weekly. Lastly, let's take a look at the monthly. The monthly is a good study in levels again, because the first time we got stuck under here after 6 months of, crisscrossing this thing, or 4 months of crisscrossing it, 2 months of banging our head on it, we had a sharp move lower. Now 93 is the number. You can see we poked barely above it here so far this month, but as long as we're staying under 93 on a monthly basis, the pressure is to 74. So you can see on the 3 different time frames, there's different levels of reference that show us where the pressure will be down into this 70 to 73, 74 area. So you can watch it on all 3 time frames to see, is everything lined up? You got mixed. Is the daily pointing down? Is the weekly pointing up? Is the monthly, still crisscrossing? But at least it'll give you a way of assessing the risk while we, sort of flesh this thing out, see which way we're going to go. Anything else you want to add here on Bitcoin, Barry?
Yeah, well, I think that's it. Let's see if the 85, that area holds,
Mhm.
and if we're going to do a higher low, or if we're going to really come down and scare everybody, or just lose all of it and head down to 70, head down to 70.
Yeah, I mean that's the
Um,
key, right? If 85 goes, we're into the 70s, and then the monthly and the weekly will support that as well.
right. In my case, I think if the low goes, we go all the way,
Right.
somewhere.
This low here.
Yeah, I think that's really important. So,
Yep.
but
Let's
let's
see.
see. Hmm.
Let's see how it plays out. All right, let's go into the commodities. As Barry said, we're starting to see money coming back into this group, and so we wanted to highlight a few of them that look pretty interesting. Corn is one we've been on for a while. This is the weekly. Let me go to the daily. Corn is one we've been on for a while, and after we made this high, we said, all right, we're going to have some sort of pullback here. Let's see what happens with this pullback. Well, as you can see, the pullback has been really mild so far. We just structurally pulled back and sat on top of these other highs here. And now we've been doing this, for the last 6, 7 days, we've been doing this chop around this 50% of the square, this 446. So to me, it looks, again, when a correction is shallow and is more of a consolidation in a bullish pattern, that we're coming off lows or things like gold or silver, it's a really
Yeah.
strong indication. So I think
Hmm.
corn is signaling us here that this next week we really want to watch to see if we can get some bars clearing the 50% of this square at 446, then we should go again here. So that's why I wanted to bring corn to your attention. It was correcting, after we made this high, I left it off for a week or so off the show, but now I want to bring it back to your attention because of, the pattern that's developing. Let's take a look at the weekly and see what that's showing us. The weekly is showing the correction has been basically one inside bar, and now, we took out the high of that inside bar this week. So
Hmm.
this thing, again, may be ready to go. We had that first move up. We had a pullback that held the full square, and now we're pushing again. And we're holding this, this one by one as well, which is kind of a bullish sign as well. So if we take out these highs, we should push up towards 517. That'll be the next target and these highs here. So let's see how that plays out. Let's take a quick look at the monthly. The monthly, we had the November bar was up. December, we're inside so far. But
Mhm.
if we get going on this one, we want to watch 463 monthly basis because clearly that's going to be some resistance on the full square. You can see it topped it here when we were doing that big 6-year base. That was a top before the big move. So 463 will be a key level to watch monthly if we do get cranked up next week. But everything's, it's just sort of coming together. The whole pattern and the price action is all pointing towards,
Mhm.
odds favoring higher prices here.
Things are heating up.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
446 is the big number for on a daily basis to watch next week. If we can get above it and clear it, that could send us up to the more like the weekly and monthly resistance areas to test them. Anything you want to add on corn?
No, we're good. We're good. We're on track.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's take a look at beans. Beans daily here. Beans was the sort of the strongest one out of the hole, if you will. It was going
Yep. Yep.
sideways, and then we got
Mhm.
that move. Looks like we're doing an ABCD down here. We've come back below this half square today and yesterday, so I think we are going to come down. But look where if we do come down, where that completes. It would be nice structure, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Perfect.
Right.
Perfect.
Sit on top of all these highs that we're going back in this long consolidation. So let's watch this week and see if we do get, if we do tag and complete this ABCD and then get a reversal. It's good from a pattern standpoint because we will have completed this correction leg, and structurally we'll be sitting on top of all this stuff. So that's the thing that we want to watch in the coming week on beans. Let's quickly take a look at the weekly. You can see this week we have a down bar. But again, this is another way to visualize the potential really good structure if we pull back into this area, which would be around 1081, 1080. So if we pull back into that area and then get a reversal or hold and don't push hard into that, structurally, it would be very nice on a weekly basis as well. Take a quick look at the monthly, give you the monthly perspective. Again, you see that area we're talking about trying to sit on
Yeah.
top of. Here,
This is the one to
it's
watch.
yeah, it's really
This
tight.
is the one to watch. Yep.
Yeah, but it's an important spot. We have a lower low this month, so again, let's see if we can hold structurally. If we do and get a reversal on a lower time frame, that's generally a pretty good entry when you get that sort of pattern setting up. Any other comments or insight you want to throw in here on beans?
Well, you guys have been following this from the August lows, and we moved higher, and we got the October pullbacks, and then breaking above 1035. I mean, this is the break, right? It was perfect move up. Now this is the part to catch if we're actually going to move higher. Have to start a bull run. This is where we're going to start it. So this pullback's going to be everything, right? So we can even pull back into 35 or a little bit above 1035
Mm-hmm.
or the ABCD. Any action above that is fine. It's just we want to catch the flip. We want to catch that reversal from there
Yeah, the reversal and the turn out of
and
here
the
is what
move.
we want
Yeah,
to
yeah,
catch
yeah.
because that could be the fast one, right?
Hmm.
There's your first move up. Here's your first pullback, and then the next move it could be the big one.
Yeah,
It's kind of what we look for all the time. We
yep.
scan charts all the time looking for these sort of things. So
Hmm.
when the setup's there, you got to pay attention, and the setup's there.
Yep.
All right, let's take a look at a different kind of setup that we've been playing around with, and that's coffee. And here we've been looking short. We've had a
Yep.
nice
Yep.
move. We called out this. We've been really riding this thing up and down multiple times. Like we caught a short here, wrote it down. caught a long here, didn't catch all of it, but had a nice chunk there. Saw this false break in real time, played this short a couple different times. But look at, all along what we're doing is we're stair stepping down. And now this week, the latter part of this week, we started getting stuck under 380 the last few days.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really key. So early next week, we want to see, do we take out these lows here? And then if we do, can we take out these lows? Because taking out these lows will, I think, open up a pretty decent move here. It'll put us on track to definitely challenge this full square and then go down and challenge this structure down here.
Mm-hmm.
So getting stuck under that 380, we want to make sure early next week we are under 380 and then see if that can bring in the sellers to really push this thing down.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look at the weekly. Here's your weekly. Weekly, the key number was 384. Last week we just barely had some price action above it. This week everything's under 384.
Right.
So again, it's the same principle. Having bars under that creates pressure down to the next level, which is this full square around 358. So the weekly is falling into place as well. Let's take a look at the monthly. Here's your monthly. Monthly, we're kind of in the middle between these two, points, the 50% of the square and the full square. So we want to see the next important one, I think, is this one here, which is 368. So basically it's going to be taking out the lows that we've made already this month. And then the monthly will really start kicking in. That's when you get the powerful momentum push. But going back to the shorter time frames, like the daily, the key number is that 380. We want to see if we stay below that early part of next week, and if that brings on pressure to the downside. Anything else stand out to you on coffee?
Well, that's pretty good. I mean, it's been working, but you got to trade it like coffee,
Yeah, you got to take it when you
So,
have it.
but yeah, if we can't make about 380, then yeah, I think we're gonna go back down and check the lows and maybe tap 335.
Yep, that's the idea. Let's see next week the setup's potentially there. All right, last one. The old Widowmaker, NatGas. Look at where we got the high, Barry.
Yep, right
So
there, right there.
if you go back and check the previous podcast, you can see we've been talking about this and getting involved when we started making higher lows and higher highs. And this week we got an acceleration. I don't know why, probably because of the cold weather in the eastern part of the US. The point is that once you clear levels, like cleared this level, we said, okay, next level's here. Cleared this level. Here's your check back where you clear it, and then you go again. And here we just blasted right through the full square and went right up to 50% of the square. So we are 90 up from these August 22 lows, from this low here. This is 90 up. So
Yep,
do we
yep,
we
yep.
got to watch and see, is it reasonable to assume we're going to get some sort of pause or some sort of pullback? Absolutely. Let's watch and see how it plays out. Does it do like a gold and just sort of go sideways and we hold it 490 here? If we can hold 490, that's going to be really bullish. I mean, we could pull all the way back to this breakout here and still be bullish. But we want to see how does this next pullback, if we get a pullback, it could be a consolidation. How does it react, right? How does it act? Where does it find support? Where do the buyers come back in? But we are 90 up here to here.
Good time to be alert.
Be alert. That's right. Let's take a look at the weekly. Here's your weekly. I put in this 3/4 of the square price to give us a reference of what we could pull back to as well. 518 is possible here. If we pull all the way back to 471, again, that's not bearish, right? If we pull back to this half square and hold, it's essentially these previous highs is where we'd be finding support, and that's bullish. So watch 568 on the upside, 518, 471 on the downside here. Let's take a quick
Looking
look at the
good.
month. Yep, let's look at the monthly. Here's your key number, 488 on the monthly. Right? We barely have a full bar over. So let's see when we come down if we can hold that spot. If we can, I mean, look at the structure. That's beautiful structure, right? Textbook. If we want to keep going, when we get to 3/4 of the square here, 652 is a reasonable target, and the full square above is 815. But given that 90 on the daily, let's see if we can hold 488 on a pullback monthly basis. That'll be bullish. Anything you want to add here on NatGas?
I think we're good. You got all the information. You got the levels,
Yeah,
timing. Yeah. Yeah. But it's
yeah,
definitely active. So this is the time to really trade it.
yeah. And see what happens right after the boredom,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
it starts. And this is the clues. This is why we always talk about seeing these higher lows and higher highs. You got to pay attention because this is what can come out of them. Doesn't
Yeah.
always happen.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it does this and then it goes right back down into a sideways pattern. But
Mm-hmm.
you only have to catch a few of these to be very profitable. So anyway,
Very nice.
that's it. I think the question that we started off with, naughty or nice for the market going into Christmas, is it's up for grabs and debatable. It depends on the market you're looking at, and it depends on how price acts at these important levels. So hopefully through Barry's presentation and mine, you've gotten some important levels to watch this week, and it can help you assess, which event is more probable, moving up or moving down, because that's the name of the game. Good job, Barry. Thanks a lot for all the information you share here and on Twitter, because I think it's tremendously helpful if people watch it and use it. So
You bet. Thanks, Ben. Good job. And we'll see you guys next week. And maybe with the bigger show and maybe a midweek show if we have time.
we'll see. Yep.
Yep. Yep. Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Bye bye.